right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Uptight White Guys podcast, where we cover the important things, everything from sports to aliens to what else?
Movies, music.
Movies, the really important stuff.
Absolutely.
Internet beef, stuff like that. I am
Who's
joined.
zooming who?
Yeah. My name is Liam Fawnin. I'm your host, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and father.
Father.
My father, yes, Michael Fawnin, the one and only.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome back. Another week.
Another bit of nonsense.
Yeah. Another week gone by. Another podcast to record. How are you feeling, Dad? How are you feeling this week?
Good. I'm doing really good. I have some travel this week, and and sorry if we're a little late, but it's been a week. We've had a lot going on, so
Yeah, it's been a little chaotic, but I mean probably more so for you than for me. But just
stuff happens, man.
Yeah, stuff happens. Anything new happened to you since anything new in your life develop?
No, just planning a few little trips with Mom, and looking forward to going to see Dave Yu from the Hooters up in LA next month. So that'll be really fun.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to stay here.
So for those who don't know, Hooters is a band I grew up with. The drummer from the Hooters is a huge mentor of mine as a drummer, and our idol, I should say. So looking forward to seeing him next month, reconnecting, and with my friend Tim Butler, bass player friend of mine.
Yeah.
So it should be fun.
Yeah, I'm supposed to stay here and
Babysit.
behave myself and take
Good
care
luck with
of the animals and whatnot. So
Cool.
yeah,
Appreciate you doing that.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot of fun. Well, you're off at your concert.
That's right.
But everybody, welcome back. Last episode was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. I think we're actually getting the hang of this thing.
Yeah, it seems like, watching back, it seems like, it was a little cringy watching back at the other episodes because you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Or like the way you say things is kind of awkward. And like, I feel like we are actually improving. So
Hopefully.
And I feel like the more we get towards like a normal conversation, the better we'll be. So the more comfortable we are, the better.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what are we covering this week?
This episode, we're going to be covering the UFO Whistleblowers. I'm really excited to talk about that because, it was kind of a big deal, big thing.
Yeah.
We're really excited to talk about that. I think you have a little segment that you're going to do here first, and at the end we'll do another sports segment, our first one on the NHL, because we've been talking a lot about the NFL lately, so
Changing it up.
Yeah, changing it up a little bit, and I think that'll be it for our episode this week, and
Awesome.
Then on to the next. So I don't know if you wanted to go ahead and get started on your segment that you're going to do here, which is going to be the technology segment for the week. It'll be a little bit shorter than the last technology segment, but if you want to get started with that, or we can just keep, shooting it before, just messing around before we get into it. What do you think? Do you want to
Let's go into
it?
the technology section. I just really wanted to cover a couple things that have happened. One of which is in the biotechnology sector, which I am involved in, and the other is just a regular technology announcement that was pretty amazing. So there was an announcement that some university folks had developed the first room temperature ambient pressure superconductor. And if this is true, this could be a real game changer from a power production and transportation tech perspective, which is something that is a real problem. So again, this is technology that has not been peer reviewed, so a big caveat there, but There was an announcement about this company and some professors that had developed this. And again, if it's true, it's just really incredible, because this has been something, I think, particularly in Southern California, transmission of power and generation of power is a real problem. So that's
could you dumb that down for me, for scrubs like me who don't understand what you're talking about?
I don't know that much about it either, other than, two things: the generation of power and the transmission of power have been a long-standing issues. I mean, we in California have these wires, going from Arizona, Nevada here. We can produce power, for example, solar power like we have.
Okay.
It's all about the transmission of that power is really difficult. And very often that has, heats up and you get loss of power and things like that. Again, I don't know that much about it, but I do know, based on what some of my peers are saying, that this could be a real game changer in terms of power generation and transmission. So
that's cool. And do you know? I know you said you don't know a ton about it, but do you happen to know if it's limited to certain? You said it's mostly for the transformance of power to be able to use it.
Right.
Would that could that apply to solar, quicker transmission of solar energy into power?
It's more about as I understand it, it's more about the transmission of that power. So, and the efficiency of the transmission, how much energy is lost over how much of a period of time, how much heat does it generate, things like that.
Oh, so it's more efficient.
Yeah. So, well, again, this is theoretical. This is basically a university lab and a startup company that's developed this technology, as I understand it. So,
gotcha.
We'll see where this goes, but I think it's really exciting technology, and this is an area that I'm just really psyched. We hear so many negative things. It's always nice to hear some positive stuff, and technology is an area where we can really embrace some interesting new technology that might be exciting and positive. The second technology I'll talk about is a company called Celltrans, and they are a cell therapy company. So again, this is in biotech, my area, and they have developed a cell therapy technology for type 1 diabetes.
Oh, wow.
So this is treatment, of a donor pancreatitis cells. So this again could be a real game changer in terms of insulin injections and all of that. There's about 1.9 million patients in the U.S. with type 1 diabetes. So cell therapies continue to, although fairly nascent, right? They're a new technology in biotechnology, but it's really changing dramatically how we're addressing and treating patients. And I think a good analogy is sort of we're going from really scratching around the edges of trying to treat symptoms to actually trying to find curative ways of treating disease and the underlying cause of disease on a cellular level. So super interesting technology, platform. The whole cell therapy platform, I think, is really, again, very early days, but has really been, we've cured cancer with this.
Wow.
So there's cell therapy technology is very interesting, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, this sounds great. I've heard about cell therapy and stuff like that working really well for people. So, like you said, looking forward to the development of that and seeing kind of where that goes in the future as far as curing maybe cancer or something like that. So, that's super exciting. And with that, we can go ahead and get on to our entertainment section here.
Sounds good.
All right. So now we're going to get started with our entertainment section on the UFO Whistleblowers. And, this has been in the news kind of all over lately.
Yeah.
The whole UAP thing and the whole hearing, whatnot.
Even UAP is like a different
acronym
for me.
UAP, for those of you who don't know, UAPs it's like the new term the government is using, basically replacing UFOs, and it
Right.
means unidentified aerial phenomena. Um, and yeah, so that's going to replace UFOs. I don't understand why. Maybe it's just like more of a technical term or something like that.
There was too much bad stuff
Oh,
about
too
UFOs.
much bad press about UFOs or something.
People immediately think of aliens,
So, 3 military veterans testified in court,
Mm-hmm.
in front of Congress, right?
Yeah, not in court, but Congress.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, in front of Congress, not in court.
Yep.
And they basically all gave their testimony about their personal experiences with UFOs or UAP sightings and things like that. One of whom was a former Air Force major, I believe. He claimed that the government has a program in which it recovers unidentified vessels and basically studies them. And he also claimed that the government has recovered from those crash landing sites where there are UAPs. Non-human biologics is the quote. Non-human biologics.
What I found really interesting about the three of them testifying was these are three people that were all three military, all three with their own individual experiences, plus experiences from many, many colleagues they had talked to.
Yeah.
And they were all very sort of not like mystical or anything. They were very pragmatic, like, this is a military concern. The underlying text of what they're saying is this is a military concern. We should be concerned about these unidentified things, regardless of what they are, flying in our airspace that we might crash into or that might be a danger to us.
Yeah, it didn't strike me as like they were these like people, these loonies who were like,
Right.
aliens, aliens, aliens. No, they were like very like, this is what it is. Like, there's a program, and this like very professional about it, and very, is it not skeptical, but
Yeah, because they weren't. I mean, some of them were not even talking about because they didn't have firsthand knowledge about the extraterrestrial part of it. It was really more about like there are these things that are flying around that are doing things that and these are people with high security clearances that are like, these are technologies that we do not have, and no country we know of has the ability to fly and stop in midair and change direction immediately. And it was really more about the security risk and potentially crashing into people or other planes or whatever. So
it may have been about that, but obviously with the attention it got, it became way more than that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it became about aliens, even if it was, because the national media, it's like
everything is blown up.
Yeah, it's going to be blown up. I mean, it's such a huge thing.
Yeah.
Like, of course, it's going to be blown up. But anyway, one of the military personnel who was giving their testimony, Major David Gruscht. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying that name wrong, butchering it. But he claims that he was formerly part of the government's UAP task force, which is who I guess is recovering these non-human biologics from the crash sites, the UAP crash sites. He was the one who claimed that, and he himself said he never had seen any aliens or anything like that, but he said that there was proof from people he knows who are currently still in the program, and he himself had seen evidence or something like that, or like he had heard from a bunch of reliable sources close to him within the program, and just military personnel in general, that the proof that this thing was real, like things like this were actually being recovered and they were not human and stuff like that. I'm not sure if I read this correctly, but I saw something that said the government doesn't necessarily they never really confirmed that there was such a thing as the UAP task force. in the government. So that's an interesting detail too. It's like, makes you wonder, like, is he lying? Is he telling the truth? Is the government hiding something on purpose? So that's really interesting thing to consider here too with all this.
I mean, it's just my personal take, but none of the three that testified seemed to me to have any motivation to do this. To say that, I mean, all three. The one guy in particular whose name escapes me.
I think that's who it is. It's Major David Grush. I think he was the main guy. He was the one who said like most of the stuff that everybody's like, whoa, about.
So, and the interesting thing I found about him is like he has zero, like he has suffered, both professionally.
Yeah. He's like blacklisted now, right?
So I mean, none of, the one major he's retired. So, there's no, he testified that he has never gotten any negative repercussions, but I don't think either he was, bringing up anything terribly controversial. He's really more about these are things that are flying around that we don't know what they are. But this other guy really talked quite at length about how he was ostracized and criticized and professionally hurt by this. So it seemed to me none of the three of them had like a motive to. I mean, they almost had a reason not to bring this up or a reason not to testify because there's no upside.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what's
other than telling the truth, it seemed.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting about it, right?
But who knows,
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? So other military personnel made a testimony of their own as well, and they accounted their own personal experiences with UAPs. In particular, I think one of the people who was there took part in was the one flying the aircraft in the video the Pentagon released in 2020 about the 3 UAP sightings, I believe. That guy was there, and he testified his own personal account of the experience, which is super interesting as well. And I encourage any of you who are watching this and interested to go back and just go on YouTube and, you can look up Pentagon's 3 declassified UFO videos, and that will pop right up. And you can see the videos for yourself. The Pentagon released it in 2020. So that's the most famous of these incidents that happened, but there were others as well who gave their testimony and personal accounts. And, like I said, that Major David Grutch, he, claims to still know people on the UAP task force and have gotten their opinions and their accounts as well, and also other witness accounts that were there which is most of them were civilian, I believe, civilian, contact, civilian incidents.
The one thing I heard was they were saying that, most of the folks that are flying in the armed services, see these regularly. And it's not just on the West Coast or the East Coast. It's not isolated to a specific area that they're regularly seeing these, which I found interesting.
Yeah, well, the one from 2020, I'm not sure if all 3 of them were, but at least one of them was in San Diego, which is interesting, California.
Where we're from.
Yeah, exactly. So, pretty close to home here, but... Yeah, there's been tons everywhere, all over the United States as well, and I'm sure internationally as well. And then I just wanted to ask you, do you think aliens are real?
So my take on this is, I find it statistically very hard to believe that we have one planet that is so inhabited by different kinds of life forms, not just humans, and that with the millions or billions of planets and stars out there that no other life exists. I find that statistically very hard to believe. And we as a spacefaring creature have only scratched the surface of what's out there.
It's a huge galaxy
with the Hubble and different things. So I just find it I find it much harder to believe that there's no other life other than us than the possibility, just by, statistics, that there's no other living. Now, whether they fly around and all the rest of it, who knows?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm right there with you. I completely agree with that sentiment. I think it's kind of hard to, like, say, oh, there's nothing else out there. Like, there's got to be something else out there, right? Like, and if there is something out there, are they flying around in these spaceships that can go, any which direction without a motor or anything, like that? So it's an interesting thing to think about for sure. Do you think that we're in any danger?
No.
No, you don't think. You don't think we're in any danger from aliens?
But this is sort of my like life view. I don't fear things that I don't necessarily understand. If something
silly human,
if someone demonstrates, it's kind of like meeting a new person. It's kind of a good example. You might say, oh, they're a jerk or whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay, but I really give everyone the benefit of the doubt until they prove to me that they're not trustworthy or whatever.
Or until they blast you with a laser gun.
Exactly.
Right.
But I just don't. I just don't. I don't see any reason to be fearful in that way.
Interesting.
Because if they're truly that advanced, taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
If they're truly that advanced, they could do whatever they want anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like.
Yeah, I'm of the belief like you shouldn't worry about it until there's something to worry about. They give you something to worry about.
There's enough in life to worry about without having to make stuff up.
Yeah. So do you think, with saying that, do you think the government is hiding more information about aliens that we may not know as the general public?
It kind of seems that way from this.
Yeah,
testimony.
I think it definitely seems like that.
I'm not a huge subscriber of the government being particularly good at hiding secrets. I think they're not particularly good at hiding secrets, and they've proven that over and over and over again.
True.
So it's kind of hard to believe that they would be able to keep something like this for that long, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, didn't they, after the hearing, they released a bunch of stuff, didn't they? A bunch of information.
Did they?
And I think they started like a public government webpage about it or something.
Well, that's one of the things I found really, really good about this. This is the first time that our government has really addressed, UAPs publicly in such a forum. So I think that's really good in terms of sort of turning the light on in the room and addressing it in a way that's more professional than a bunch of people with aluminum foil on their heads kind of thing. It's so
that would have been funny though. If they had been like, surprise.
Yeah. So it's
So when you think of aliens, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Like, if you had to compare, like, what do you think aliens look like, and like maybe based off like a movie you've seen. So if you could compare what you think aliens look like, what is the most accurate depiction of an alien in your mind in the movies that you would think it would look like?
I honestly, I don't know, obviously, but when I think of it from sort of a scientific perspective, it's more about like different kinds of life forms. So it's more about like, single cell organisms and things like that. In terms of what we might find in looking out in space, we're more likely to find like algae or, something like this, a different kind of life form, not humanoids.
I gotcha. So you don't picture a humanoid then, like the movies
maybe,
usually.
But was it?
That wasn't the
Signs
answer
or
I was
something?
looking for.
Is that not the answer?
No, I was looking for the entertaining answer.
Oh, sorry about that. No, maybe like Signs or something. I don't know.
Signs is a good one. any of you haven't seen Signs, I feel like that's a pretty good depiction of a humanoid alien. But from like, I would say based on their ships, what I picture of like an alien spaceship is like Nope. If you've seen the movie Nope.
I haven't seen that.
You didn't watch it with Mom?
I don't think so.
Well, anyway, Nope is
No, I did.
one of the newer Jordan Peele films.
Yeah. Oh, I did. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Forgot
that's
about
what I
it.
picture alien spaceships to kind of look like. It's like they can like blend in with the clouds and
Yeah.
you know, they come in at night under the shade of darkness and kind of like fly around and
Yeah,
stuff
that was
like
a
that.
scary movie.
That
I'm
was-
surprised
it was
you,
uneasy.
You guys watched that one.
Yeah, well, it was kind of funny too. You know, Jordan Peele has like the funny, scary, and it's all a bunch of
Actually,
things.
that's the best line from the movie. Nope.
Nope. Yep. Not of planet Earth.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep.
I love that. That's so funny.
On so many levels.
Yeah. And the last question I had for you about this is, why do you think this happened now? Why did this hearing happen now? Why is this all coming out now?
That's a really good question. I don't know.
Why do
this
you
has
think,
been
yeah?
percolating out there, and I think it's a legitimate military concern that there
Yeah.
are these things flying around that that we hope that they're not some other government
Yeah.
toying or spying. I mean, certainly China's had their balloons and things flying over. Certainly not exactly what we're talking about here, but
Yeah.
we're there are all kinds of different drones and things, and we need to be certainly cognizant of what's being developed out there. Not that they're flying saucers, but
Yeah.
I think that's a legitimate military concern.
Yeah.
Keeping on top of what countries are developing what technology, and
Yeah.
and if like I said earlier, to me statistically it's likely there's other beings out there.
Yeah.
What do they present? What kind of technology do they have? And
Yeah.
what kind of risk is that to us as a people? I think that's legitimate.
Anyway, yeah, I think we can. I think we're done with that discussion.
That was very entertaining, Liam.
Thank you.
At least for me.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting. I'm
We
sorry
have not
if I
talked
asked
about that at all.
some bland questions,
No,
but
not at all. I thought they were good.
well,
I hadn't thought about a lot of that stuff really. So
good. I hope it was thought provoking for the audience as well as us. So
my lame answers.
no, they weren't lame answers. They were interesting. Yeah, but we can just
Okay.
keep going, I guess. Keep going
Sounds
to
good.
to this next sports segment that we're
Nice.
going to do here.
Sounds good.
All right. All right, we're going to get started with our sports segment.
section.
Yes. The next sports section. The next sports segment. So this sports segment, we're going to talk more about the NHL and less about the NFL.
So I'm feeling the cold ice. rink.
Yes, I wish. I wish it was colder in here right now. It's pretty hot. I'm getting a little sticky and sweaty. It's gross.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we're gonna just do for our NHL segment. We're gonna do a short recap of last season because, I think some people out there may need it who may not pay like really close attention, and we definitely need it because we didn't pay as much
been a while.
attention. Yeah, it's been a while since we paid like a lot of attention to the NHL, honestly. But hopefully this podcast will kind of get us back into it a little bit. I'm not really going to go over the regular season too much, more so individual accolades and, just like the playoffs a little bit
Sure.
and like a couple like off-season things. But that'll be about it. But the first thing I wanted to say is that Patrice Bergeron, who is a longtime Boston Bruin and their captain for many, many years, retired.
Oh, good for him.
Retired this offseason. So
Sorry, for those of you who are unaware, he's the unbiased one. I'm the biased one.
well,
Although I lived in Boston for 10 years, I should be more of a fan of, but I'm not.
yeah. Well, I was told I was biased
Of
by
course.
family last time. So
Because we didn't talk about the Giants the whole time?
yeah, I got to tone
Or
it
the
down.
Patriots?
I guess I got to tone it down a little bit. But But yeah, he retired, and we wish him the best. He was, I know you may not have...
He's a really good player.
Yeah, he's a really good player, and you may not have known so much about him, but, you know, he was around for a long time. He was a captain for a long time. He was a great player for a long time. So, you know, we wish him nothing but the best. And
chippy player, too.
Yeah, he was a chippy player. And the Boston Bruins, speaking... Now that we're on the topic of the Boston Bruins, they won the President's Trophy last year, which is the trophy for most best record in the regular season of last year. Their record was 65, 12, and 5.
That's really good.
That's a really good record. I think it was something like 135 points or something crazy like that.
Wow.
Yeah, they led the NHL by like a mile in terms of points, and you know. You have Bergeron and Pasta to thank for that, I guess. Pasta, David Pastrnak, really good player. Andrew will know that one. And also, last season, the Stanley Cup. We didn't really get a chance to watch a lot of the Stanley Cup, but Vegas Golden Knights won their first Stanley Cup as an organization since their inaugural season, which is pretty exciting for them.
It's really amazing to me how these expansion teams really come out of the gate. Well, because
Kraken,
of the way,
not so much, though, I don't think.
Yeah, they're still working that out.
Yeah,
but I mean, still, they're. I mean, compared to like the NFL or something, they have this. The way they launch a new team for the NHL allows for more parity.
Yeah.
Which I think really helps in a way to to make these new teams really competitive out of the gate.
Yeah, well, the Golden Knights have definitely been competitive, like right out of the gate. And at first, they were like the island of misfit toys, the team of misfit toys, right? Mm-hmm. Of misfits, who had no business being in the playoffs really, because they're a bunch of, like third liners and second line players, and they made it to the Stanley Cup or whatever the first year that they were.
Yeah.
Their inaugural season, which is crazy, but we'll talk a little bit about the NHL's kind of like rules and stuff a little later, but I don't exactly love the NHL's kind of rules and things like that. I mean, like the expansion draft is fine, like taking one player from every team or whatever,
right? And
you can like protect certain players, like that's fine. Right. But yeah, it's I don't think the Kraken were nearly as successful as the Golden Knights in their
they're still working
inaugural stuff.
I mean, there's so many different things that have to go well. It's not just that you're getting good players from other teams. I mean, it's coaching and everything
well,
else.
I was just in Vegas, and I can tell you everybody in Vegas loves the Golden Knights. So that's really cool.
And that was a big question: would Vegas be able to support an ice hockey team and a football team, so
yeah, and I think another thing that I took from the Stanley Cup too is that the Florida Panthers are legit. Like they're very, very good. I know that they in the Stanley Cup, the final game, they got blown out. It was like 9-3 or something. The Golden Knights won, obviously, but one thing I did take from the Stanley Cup is definitely that the Florida Panthers are for real, because they were like tearing it up all playoffs, and they traded in last offseason. They traded for Matthew Tkachuk, excuse me, and he's just turned out to be a great player, and he's young, and he's probably going to end up being the captain, I would imagine, or assistant captain of the Florida Panthers at some point here.
They've been pretty good for the last few years, right?
They've been okay. They're kind of missing. They've always kind of been missing that piece. Mm-hmm. And I think Matthew Tkachuk just has that grit. He's like a kind of power forward. He he's very skilled, but he's big, and he gets like a lot of his points in front of the net. And he's just like a really good player, and he's only like 25 or something. So he's going to be around for a long time. It was a horrible trade. Who did they trade with? They traded it with Calgary. He was on Calgary, and the Flames took Jonathan Huberdeau, who's like 30 years old, and he's like if you watched him play, you could tell that he had like a 100-point season, which is why they did like a 1-for-1 trade. Yeah, and you could kind of tell that season that it was the supporting cast around him, right? Not so much him, right? And they still traded him for like a young, rising star, basically. Right. So I was like, what are you thinking, Calgary? It made no sense to me, but good for the Florida Panthers, because they're going to have him for a long time. if they are smart about it, and they're going to be a contender for a long time if they keep that.
The supporting cast.
The supporting cast around. So
that's one of the things I love about hockey is it's unlike other sports. I think it's a team sport. It takes a team.
Yeah.
And there are too many good players. There's really rare exceptions where one player can make a huge difference, a la basketball. But it's hockey to me is a sport where it's all about the team.
Yeah.
You can have a great offense and a crappy goalie, and you just won't get very far.
Yeah. Well, I actually think that's that's why I like watching like all of these sports. It's because they're so different. Like the NHL, the skill gap is like that big.
Yep.
It's like tiny between, unless you're Connor McDavid, which we'll talk about later. But the skill gap is so small in the NHL. That's the tiniest difference between the team that makes the Stanley Cup and the team who finishes in last place. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it all has to do with cohesion and team play and stuff like that.
Yep.
But with the NFL and stuff like that, it's like you get these skilled players, and they come together. If they can kind of come together the right way, these like amazing players who make a difference in their respective positions, like a huge difference, then you win the Super Bowl. And then you have basketball, the NBA, where it's like one amazing player can just make you fantastic, right?
One Michael Jordan,
yeah, and that's amazing too. I mean, it's all super amazing, but I'm kind of ranting.
it's also the NFL, and at least to me, the NFL and the NHL, it's a lot about coaching. Whereas it's if you don't have the right strategy, the right team, then it's tough to be successful.
I think that the NFL has a lot more to do with coaching. Like success in the NFL has a lot more to do with coaching than the NHL. But that's just because coordinators have so much, like they're calling the plays. Like you don't have plays in hockey.
Right.
And
unless power play or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just like.
But you still have a scheme.
If you have great players in the NHL and like they work together well,
Right.
you're going to be successful regardless of the coaching. But like NFL, they need to be in the right system or they're not going to succeed, right?
Right.
I mean, unless it's like a D lineman who's like just a monster and they can just blitz every play. But anyway, I'm ranting, so we're going to keep moving here.
Yep.
Jonathan Marchessault, he won playoff MVP for the Golden Knights. He deserves it. Veteran player. He was one of the original Misfits. Great player. Great to see him get the MVP. And then we're going to go on here to kind of individual accolades a little bit. More individual accolades. Connor McDavid won the Art Ross Trophy for most points. He won.
Is a freak of nature.
Hold on, I'm not done.
Okay, sorry.
He won the Maurice Richard Trophy for most goals. He won the Ted Lindsay Trophy for most outstanding player in the regular season. And he won the Hart Memorial Trophy for league MVP. So he swept all the trophies. And
for good reason.
Yeah, he had 153 points in 82 games. He had 64 goals and 89 assists. So, yeah, the guy's good. The guy's just I don't usually, praise individual people who, are on other teams other than the team that we like, which is the Ducks.
And the Rangers.
But, I think Connor McDavid is currently the best player in the NHL, in my opinion.
He's a man among boys.
Yeah, exactly. He's it's like...
Man among boys, yeah.
He's just way better than everybody else. And
Yes.
I've never seen anything like it in all my years of watching. I grew up playing hockey, never seen anything like it, other than maybe Sidney Crosby. But very controversial here, but I think he's better than Sidney Crosby. I think by the end of his career, he may not be better than Sidney Crosby right now, but I think by the end of his career, he will be better than Sidney Crosby.
Is there anyone in hockey history that compares, you think?
It's hard to compare
Gretzky?
older players. Gretzky, yeah, but it's hard because the
Totally
NHL's
different.
changed so much.
Yeah.
It's a completely different game now. But Gretzky, maybe we'll see though. I mean, that's kind of that's the best player
Sacrilege.
ever. Yeah, I could get killed for saying that. But McDavid is the 6th NHL player in history with a 150-point season. So he's one of 6 that has scored 150 points in a single season.
Mighty short list.
The last player to do that was Mario Lemieux.
Him.
In the 1995-96 season. And he had 161 points.
Wow.
And I think he had in less games, actually. So that's cool, too. But obviously, it was a different game back then.
Meaning Connor had those points in less games.
No, Lemieux had more
gotcha.
points in less games. But like I was saying, it was different back then, right?
Right.
Different game. So yeah, I think Connor McDavid is probably the best player in the NHL right now, and I don't think it's close. I think he's just, if you watch him play, if any of you watch him play, if you haven't watched him play, please go watch him play, because it's like he stands out so much. It's amazing. He's just so much better than everybody else. You can watch him skate through a whole freaking team and score a goal. It's like watching LeBron in basketball.
Yep.
It's like he's just better than everybody else.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
how about new guys? Anybody new coming up?
Well, I was going to talk about the draft.
Okay,
And Connor Bedard, who's kind of like the touted, next generational talent guy, was drafted first overall to the Chicago Blackhawks, which, I alluded to earlier, but I personally think that the NFL draft lottery is kind of dumb, because, you can finish in last place. And unlike many other sports leagues here in the United States, if you finish in last place, typically you get the first overall pick. With the NHL, that's not the case. If you get last place, you have the best odds to get the first overall pick, but it's only by you have like a 20% chance still, even with.
So how does it work? Sorry, I don't know.
They draw balls or whatever. So it's based on rank. You're more likely to get the first overall pick, but they draw it's like a lottery. So they draw a ticket for the first overall pick, and if you finish last place, you're more likely to get it, but you still only have a 20% chance or something like that. And I think they actually lowered it last year.
So how do they keep parity? I mean, that's the whole reason other sports do this, is if you're sucking, you need to get better talent.
Well, they make it so the last place team will get a top 3 pick. It's just not guaranteed to be the first pick. And I think it's 10. I don't know exactly the rules of this either, but I just know it's stupid. And the bottom 10 teams, I think, all have a shot at the first pick. And the last ranking team, I think, only has a 20% chance or something like that. It's pretty low. Wow. So, that was ridiculous. And we're Ducks fans, and they got last place. They should have had the first overall pick. Come on. But it's kind of rigged. And I think
Homer.
It's rigged. Oh, no, it's not. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion across the NHL.
I agree with it. Honestly, I do. It's like if you're the worst team, you should get the higher pick.
Yeah, I think that's just stupid.
How you get to be better as a
exactly.
team.
If you're bad, you're bad for a reason. You need help, right? So you should get the best help if you're the worst, right? So that's really all of our. That does it for our NHL segment. So I was just gonna finish the episode with some quick updates here.
Yeah. What do you got?
I had a gun to my head for this one. So
really?
Daniel Jones resigned in the offseason.
All right,
4
here
years,
comes Uncle
160
Jim's request.
4 years, 160 million. Sorry, Uncle Jim, to disappoint you.
We didn't do this earlier, I guess.
No, we didn't do it. I also wanted to talk about very quickly, Johnny Manziel has a new documentary coming out on Netflix, I think, and he talks about his problems with drugs and also his battle with mental health issues. I think I don't want to get too dark, but I think he had some issues with some really bad mental health issues that led to him being in a very low state. And, that's kind of interesting. Maybe we'll check that out. It does seem a little dark for me personally, but it's interesting because he was the first overall pick to the Browns and kind of is expected to be this huge player and kind of ended up being a little bit of a bust. But,
right.
It'll be interesting to hear his story, because it is hard to be put in the spotlight like that. and
Yep.
they expected so much of him, right?
Yep.
Number 1 overall pick quarterback. So, and in other news, Zach Martin, superstar tackle for the Cowboys, is currently holding out for a pay raise. He's one of the best, if not the best guards in the NFL, and
He's amazing.
Yeah, he was fined $500,000 for holding out, which is crazy. But
Lord.
and then Logan Wilson resigned with the Bengals, and Matthew Judon of the Patriots is getting a pay raise, which is deserved. So yeah, that's gonna do it for our sports segment this episode.
Very cool. We covered a lot.
Yeah, we were going a little slow there, I think, it's just more than I expected.
Yeah.
I didn't remember how much I wrote.
That's good stuff, though.
Yeah,
covered a lot.
That's gonna do it for this episode. Hopefully you guys are still sticking around here to see this outro. But lots of fun stuff coming up. We're really looking forward to it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. And do you have anything to add?
No, look forward to next episode. This was a good one. I like hopefully you guys like the way we're sort of setting these up with the different sections. So we keep people interested, and you can click right to the right section if you're interested. But if you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, comment, and maybe in the next episode we might talk somebody into doing an interview. We'll see.
Maybe.
But
That's a big maybe at this point, I think.
Yeah.
But if not, we'll have some fun stuff to talk about anyway, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Sounds good.
we'll see you all
See
next
ya!
episode. Later.
Later.